A famous singer arrives for his concert. The famous singer is in fact Phil Collins. Upon the celebrity's arrival, cars with 8 hitmen arrived on the scene and tried to assassinate the famous singer. In the assassination attempt, Phil Collins was slightly injured and his helicopter was blown up. It turns out Phil Collins' manager, Barry McLeod, owed money to some kind of mobster figure. It's unknown at this point to who he owed money to, but it's obvious that this kind of mobster wasn't happy about this. In the following days, when Phil Collins was preparing for his concert, he didn't believe his manager that the concert was gonna be safe, and he asked Victor Vance to go and check the stadium for any potential threats. And by threats, there was. Upon Victor Vance's arrival, he found hitmen who were planting a bomb inside of the stadium so it can blow up and kill Phil Collins. 2 days later, when the concert is taking place, Vic Vance is again asked by the manager to see if the mobster is gonna try anything else to kill Phil Collins. It turns out there were again a hitman that were sabotaging the light rig so it fell and crushed Phil. You may ask, which mobster is gonna have so much power and so much influence around Vice City so it can save more than 100 men in order to kill a very famous singer? The mobster Barry owed money to was actually Giorgio Forelli, the cousin of Sonny Forelli. Yes, the same Sonny Forelli which in 1986 tasked Tommy Vercetti's businesses in Vice City without any major consequences for his gang. The taxing itself was made very easily because there were no security at the Tommy's businesses. We know that this was because Lance's betrayal, but again, how the Forellis were able to get so much influence around Vice City, and not only that, that their main base of operation is Liberty City. In order to understand how the Forellis were so strong in the 1980s, we have to go a little bit back to the middle and the late 1970s. At this point in the GTA history, the Leones and the Forellis were actually one family, but they split up for unknown reasons, probably because of the Sonny Forelli antagonism to Salvatore Leone, who feared his rival, but Salvatore never actually went against Sonny Forelli. And this really shows how influential and powerful was Sonny Forelli and the Forellis at that time in the game. We also have to remember that when Sonny Forelli started dealing with drugs in Vice City, that's when the mafia families actually started doing them, because before that the mafia families were never involved in such kind of drugs. They were only doing racketeering, extortion, fraud, but the mafia families were never actually into drugs. This is something that the cartel will usually be doing. This again shows how Sonny Forelli and the Forellis are so influential in the GTA history. To understand how powerful these men were, highly because of their hierarchy. The loyalty in the Forelli crime family was much on a bigger level than, for example, the Leone crime family. If you look at Salvatore Leone doesn't have neither underboss or a consigliere. Consigliere is the advisor to the Don. But in the Sonny Forelli's case and the Forelli crime family in case, every boss has an underboss and a consigliere. That means that they're loyal to the boss and the family itself. Tommy Vercetti himself was very loyal to Sonny Forelli before his betrayal. But again, there's the difference between the Forellis and the other families. The other Forellis didn't have loyalty at much. They were just criminal organizations that were just in fact of making money. The Sintacos themselves were even less loyal than the Salvatore Leones. The other way the Forellis were very different from the other families is by their territorial ambition. The Forellis very much focus on keeping the territory than the business itself, because they know that if you keep the territory, you're gonna eventually keep the business. So they didn't focus on the business, they focused on the territory. And the whole idea of sending Tommy Vercetti to Florida is again to make territory, because when territory is made, you control them. Forellis also has much better connection to the corrupt officials and law enforcement, especially with the mayor of Liberty City, which was again the proof about this is when Tommy Vercetti's sentence, and look at it, it's a 15-year sentence for 11 manslaughters, which is of course, you know, how you get 15 years for 11 manslaughters, you know. And the difference between a murder and a manslaughter is manslaughter is when it's a self-defense. That's why it's a manslaughter. It's not murders, but again, 11 manslaughters and only 15 years. That's very. And in the Wikipedia of GTA it says that Sonny uses the judicial connections he has. So yes, this is again a sign that the Forellies are very strong. Okay, we explained the ways the Forellies are strong, but we didn't explain how. How did they become so strong than the Leonis family, which we know that Santos Leone is such a freak. He trades drugs all the time at the dogs, but again, it was all due to their aggressiveness to little gangs, because most of the gangs in Liberty City before the existence of the Forelli Mafia family were actually, they became part of the Forelli family. They joined them because they didn't get much chance. They couldn't live it just because they were so much ruthless, because they just cleaned everyone who. Another thing is that the Forellis always had strategic alliances with other criminal organizations. Of course, the alliances they had were with the criminal organization. The criminal organization are much smaller than the crime family, but again, when it was in their interest, they did it. And so it was. If Salvatore Leone wants to start a war with the Forellis, he doesn't have to worry about only the Forellis. He has to worry about many other little gangs that operated in the St. Mark's Bistro and the Fort Staunton area. The combination of being ruthless, political connections, very aggressive on territory claims, very feud reputation and use of intimidation, very much financial resources and investments, strategic leadership under Sonny Forelli, control over key crime markets, wide influence and ambition expansion. These were the things that led the Forellis into becoming the most powerful crime family in the United States via the 3D era in GTA. That's what allowed them to send so much men against such a famous singer at the time, Phil Collins, which were again very impressive at that time, because no one would ever try to do such thing. But of course the Forellis had so much influence, they can do this. And again, turn Tommy Vercetti's Thunderbolts against him, just axing the most powerful gang in Vice City's businesses without having an inch on himself. That were the ways the Forellis were so much strong that nobody can beat them. But eventually their worst sin is that a person from their family actually destroyed the family. Because when Tommy Vercetti killed Sonny Forelli, the Leonis and the Santacos were like, oh, it's time for us to jump, and they jumped. That's why, and also they didn't took revenge on Tommy, because they didn't have time and resources. They were losing everything. The Leonis began jumping on them when they knew Sonny Forelli died. That was a crisis in the family. That's why they lost, because everybody jumped on them. Even the gangs they were allied to, they cut the alliances and began jumping on them because they were the most strong. Everybody was looking at them. And again, their worst sin is that Sonny Forelli overestimated a person from their family, betrayed him, and when he took revenge on that, that's when the Forellis ended. And the Forellis official end is never really said, because after Claude bombs Mike Forelli, it's very unknown what happens to Franco Forelli or Giorgio Forelli. It's never really explained. But yeah, after the death of Sonny Forelli, the Forellis went into a decline, and this decline continued until the end, which is unknown actually. So yeah, that was the ways the Forellis became so powerful, and that's their worst sin, that they actually killed themselves. Because Tommy Vercetti was a very loyal soldier to Sonny Forelli, but again, that's their worst sin. They had so much power to destroy everyone, and they destroyed themselves.